Hi, hello everybody, and welcome to a special little vlog style video here on the channel. I am, of course, Captain Cardsworth, and today we're talking Yu-Gi-Oh! Specifically, if you can't tell by the screen, we are looking at the new Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden and Limited list that just got posted earlier today. It goes into effect on Monday, April 11th. I believe there's actually kind of like a YCS or something going on in Houston this weekend, which is why this doesn't go into effect immediately. Excuse me, guys. But we're going to go ahead and just kind of look at some of the changes here and discuss them. And yeah, we'll just kind of walk our way through the list here. So getting started, looking here, we have immediately Performage Damage Juggler and Performage Plush Fire going from 3 to 1. Now the little caveat here, these were both on the adjusted list that came out at the beginning of February. This adjusted list here, which is kind of like an emergency ban list. Top tier tournaments were already using these restrictions in addition to the forbidden list at the time. Local stores could choose to abide by this or allow them. Now these changes have been implemented on the actual ban list. So now these cards, straight off the adjusted list, have now been forbidden. So no real big change there, just now they're official. Moving on down, same thing here. Teller Knight Ptolemaeus went from 3 down to 1. Same basic concept, it was off the adjusted list, now is being posted to the forbidden list. I'm still not in a complete agreement with this. I know the OCG banned this. This is really just because everybody could kind of rank 4 turbo into Cyber Infinity Dragon. I was guilty of it. Look at the HardLeg Gaming video, the Hunter Family Turbo What-A-Deck, or whatever we ended up calling it. I could rank 4 turbo into Ptolemaeus, into Infinity almost every turn, but it's not that big a deal. People freak out over Cyber Infinity Dragon. It's not a big deal. It's just like Herald of Perfection. Make me waste my negation and then destroy it. It's very simple, But everybody freaked out about it, and so they got rid of Ptolemaeus as kind of the turbo engine. I'm sure there were other, shenanigans you could do with Ptolemaeus. That was obviously the biggest one, because they hit this as soon as Cyber Infinity came out in the OCG, they banned this over there. So they knew right away people were going to abuse it. Moving on, this one's kind of a curveball here. I did not expect to see this coming. Chicken Game. Chicken Game has gone from 3 down to 0. Definitely did not see that one coming. I guess this is just to keep, the FTKs from running rampant, so to speak, but I don't see that many FTKs going anywhere, FTKs are just that. You either win on your first turn or you pretty much lose. There's not really most FTKs don't have recoveries if they don't work. That's why, a lot of people freak out when they see, Royal Magical Library Exodia. It's well, that's great if you can get it off that first turn. Otherwise, I'm going to run over your 0 attack Royal Magical Library and you're going to be in a heap of trouble. So, Konami likes to shoot down the FTK decks, but Chicken Game I don't think was really that big a deal. And I remember when it came out in the OCG, everybody freaked out about it, coming over here. They're like, oh, it's going to break the game. It's going to be so broken. We got it, and it wasn't broken, Most decks didn't even run it. There were some decks that did. People try to argue it's a free draw. It's not really. You have to pay 1,000 life points to use it, and then the very next turn, your opponent can use it and destroy it. And either destroy the card or get their own advantage and draw. So, I didn't think it was that broken of a card. I felt, what? If they're gonna do something to it, when I saw this, I thought putting it at 1 would have been fine. I'm not entirely sure why banning it outright was necessary. That's the thing, a lot of cards that get banned I think would be fine at 1, but they just ban them outright. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure if there's a reason for this, if there was maybe some top tier deck at a YCS that abused Chicken Race. I don't think it was that big of a deal. But yeah, we can debate that later. Also, newly forbidden, up from 3, was Wavering Eyes. Now, this was another one that kind of came out of left field. I didn't expect to see this one. But I'm okay with it. Wavering Eyes, it was tough to get around. They're trying to trump up all these pendulum archetypes and get you to play pendulums, but 3 Wavering Eyes, is tough to deal with because that just blows up your pendulum scales. And then does damage to you to boot. 3 Wavering Eyes plus 3 Twin Twister means you've got 6 out of 40 cards in a deck that can just completely obliterate your opponent's pendulum scales. So, I feel like either Wavering Eyes or Twin Twister needed to get hit. In this case, they hit Wavering Eyes. Again, I don't think forbidding it was necessarily the smartest choice, but I'm okay with it. I don't play a lot of pendulum builds, but this keeps my pendulums a little safer. I still have to get worried about Twin Twister, but less so now. Wavering Eyes. good to see Wavering Eyes go. Moving on to the limited section, we've got this whole block right here. Luster Pendulum, Monkey Board, and then Skull Crobat Joker. All three of those, again, were straight off this adjusted list. So no real surprise to see them getting the official status of limited. Wisdom Eye Magician, that kind of came out of nowhere. I think that wasn't on this. Again, that's limited up from 3. Didn't see that one coming either, but I guess they're trying to balance the Pendulum Magicians a little bit. I don't know. I haven't actually played against too many Magician Pendulum decks, but they are kind of annoying, especially with Pendulum Call, which they did not hit Pendulum Call. I'm very surprised at that. It's like, Pendulum Call is basically like, hey, let's just play this card to get our Pendulum Scales. Woo! So, a little interesting they didn't hit that, but they did hit Wisdom Eye Magician, I guess, to balance those a little bit. Elder Entity Norden has been hit down to 1 from 3. This is exactly what I figured they were going to do. I figured Norden, because the OCG banned Norden outright. I felt like, again, that was a little too extreme. 1 Norden, I think, is fine. That's generally all people play. Generally people will play their instant fusions, to get into Norden, but they only run the 1 Norden because that's all they really need. Norden, it gives you a good rank 4 play. It's not that broken. People freak out about it. It can change the game, but it's not a broken card. It can just, it makes a good play, but it doesn't need to be banned. But 3, I think, was a little extreme. So I'm happy with this change here. Elder Entity Norden to 1. Moving on from Norden, we have Thousand Eyes Restrict. Was limited, or was forbidden, is now limited. You know what, guys? I'm in complete agreement with this change. I don't think Thousand Eyes Restrict is a broken card. I'm not entirely sure why it was on the ban list all this time to begin with. So welcome back, Thousand Eyes Restrict. At 1, I guess they're trying it out. They're testing the waters to see if it's really that broken, and if people don't abuse it, they might bring it back even more so later. That was just one of those cards that's been sitting on this ban list forever, and nobody really knew why. Ignis to Prominence, the Blasting Draco Slayer Limited. Thank you. I am in total agreement with this. There's nothing more annoying than watching a deck pump out 3 Ignisters. And it's pretty easy to do. Ignister Turbo, I've seen a lot of people drop Ignister after Ignister in duels, and it's very annoying. When you finally get around 1, they just drop another. So limiting Ignister, good move on their part. I agree with it. It helps balance the game. Whenever you see people just constantly dropping the same cards over and over again, you need to hit something, because it's not fun if people are playing the same thing over and over and over again. It was just like with Necros, They had to hit Necros because it was just the same cards over and over and over again. And 3 of them, it was just 3 of this, 3 of this, 3 of this, and it was just very annoying. So, dropping Ignister down to 1, very good. Makes people be a little more conservative, making their Ignister play. Draco Face-Off. Again, I think this is just to kind of balance the pendulum archetypes a little bit. This is slowing down the, I think this is the one where you add your opponent picks 2 at random. 1 goes face up on your extra deck, and 1 I think you activate in one of your scales. So this is just a little way to balance your pendulum archetypes a little bit, I think. Again, not too affected by that either way. I'm okay with it. Not mad. Reasoning, I did not see this coming. This is a little bit out of the blue as well. Reasoning down to 1. So much for Infernoids. The people that thought maybe Infernoids would come back, good luck with 1 Reasoning. You can build Infernoids without Reasoning. It's just not very good. It's very tough. Infernoid's main goal was to use Reasoning and get a good middle with that, and then just go off for days. You could still build it, and you could still play the 1, but not so much. I think this also, is going to slow down Kozmos a little bit. I honestly haven't seen too many people running Reasoning in Kozmos, but I've seen multiple people, some of my friends have been saying this will slow down Kozmos a little bit. You'll note that the Kozmos did not get any hits up here, either forbidden or in the limited zone. Nothing has hit Kozmos. So Kozmos, have fun. Monarchs, have fun. Reasoning to 1, it's going to kill the Infernoid, all those Infernoid fans. This is the one that I am most in, not really an uproar about, but in disagreement with. Upstart Goblin, back to 1. We've had Upstart Goblin at 3 now for several formats. I can't remember when they took... Upstart Goblin used to be at 1. Many years ago, Upstart Goblin was at 1 for a long time. And then they brought it back, and it hasn't been a problem. It speeds up decks. But in a way, I guess Konami is doing this to keep that from happening. People are basically running 37 card decks when you run 3 Upstarts. And I guess Konami's wanting to get away from that a little bit. They're wanting to, make people actually play a 40 card deck. Same thing with maybe Chicken Race, why Chicken Race went from 3 to 0. When you play all these cards that give you draw power, it basically is like, alright, well, if I play 3 Upstarts and 3 Chicken Race, that's 6 cards that let me draw on my turn. So I'm basically playing a 34 card deck. And then if you add terraformings in there to start your chicken games, you're at 31 card deck. So, Upstart Goblin to 1, I guess I can understand the decision, although why bother at this point? You've got other problems in your game and you're worrying about people playing a 37 card deck, but whatever. Upstart to 1, I don't know why they didn't just ban the damn thing, to be honest, because Upstart Goblin to 1 is kind of pointless, Somebody was like, oh, it's a 39 card deck now. It's like, it doesn't matter. That's a very insignificant thing, 1 card is not a big deal. So, honestly, Upstart probably should have just been banned. I remember when this was at 1 years ago, people didn't really play it at 1. It's just not a game changer. It just doesn't really help you. And at that point, you're hoping to draw that 1 card instead of, it's not going to add anything to your consistency. It doesn't make sense to play it at 1. So Upstart's value is definitely going to drop. Upstart's definitely going to, you might still see people playing it, but again, just put that 1 extra card in your deck that's actually going to help you rather than Upstart, which depending on when you draw it, I've had games where I don't want to play Upstart because if I give my opponent more life points, it actually puts me in a bad position to where I can't win now. So yeah, Upstart to 1, did not see that coming, but I guess I understand the decision even though I don't necessarily agree with it. No traps this time. Actually, I don't think they did anything with traps up here either. No traps. Moving on to the semi-limited, the smallest block here. The one most people don't usually care about too much. Debris Dragon has come back to 2. Was limited. So you perhaps might see some, Plant Synchros, I think, use Debris Dragon quite a bit. So you might actually see a little more Plant Synchro action here. I'm not entirely sure on that. But Debris Dragon to 2, I don't see any problems with that. Allure of Darkness was limited down to 2. I don't know how long that's been at 1. I think that's been at 1 for quite a while. I don't have too much problem with that, although it is going to help, I think, Burning Abyss and Monarchs get a little draw power, gain a little bit of draw power there. Now, this is the one that everybody expected here. Emergency Teleport was at 3, now at 2. I honestly expected E-Telly to go to 1 on this list. So they actually kind of came in a little bit underneath my prediction. They went ahead and semi-limited it. This is obviously going to be the biggest. It's sad when this is the biggest blow to an archetype. But E-Telly to 2 is the biggest hit they did to Kozmos. Kozmos they use E-Telly like no tomorrow, and now they use it like tomorrow. There's not a big drop in efficiency here. You're still going to have them running the max 2 for there. I honestly thought it would go to 1, but I'm happy that they at least did something, I think everybody thought they were going to hit Kozmos this format, but it's not. With Premium Gold coming out that has all the Kozmos, and I guess they're still trying to sell all that Premium Gold. So, Kozmos still reigns supreme, just a slight bit slower with E-Telly down to 2, and then Reasoning to 1, wherever that was. Little bit of Kozmo hit, but I don't think that much. Kozmos are still going to be, top tier deck. No challenges. Moving on to the no longer on the list section. These are always kind of interesting to look at and see what they've decided to just kind of give up on. They don't care about it anymore. Dark Magician of Chaos was forbidden, has now come back, and now has an errata. That is why it is back. Not an unexpected choice at all. Tragodia was semi-limited. Now you can run 3. Again, Tragodia, not that big of a problem anymore. It was at one time limited, but Tragodia is just not a big deal anymore. There's so many ways to get rid of cards now, like Castell, and I don't know, that's just Castell is the big one. You can run 3 Castells and just blow things up and send them back to the hand and back to the deck. So Tragodia, not that big a problem anymore, so they're bringing it back. Same thing with Advanced Ritual Art, was semi-limited. No real reason to leave it at 2. 3 is fine. Your biggest abuser of this, Necros, is not a thing anymore, and Necros are not going to become a thing by magically giving them another ARA. So you'll see a little bit of Herald action. You know, people might try making Heralds good again now that they can run 3 of these, because the problem with any ritual archetype is it's inherently, negative. Like, you've got to have all the pieces in your hand in order for it to work, otherwise it just stalls out. So you really need those 3 ARAs to make your ritual decks work. So maybe see a little bit of Herald play. I don't think you're going to see a lot of, Necros are certainly not going to come back from this. So ARA coming back is fine. This one is kind of interesting, though. Crush Card Virus was limited, has now come back to 3. The biggest issue I see with this is it might actually kill Monarchs. This is probably a very, between the Burning Abyss that people are still going to find a way to run. They just put out Beatrice, they put out all the BAs and Premium Gold. So Burning Abyss, even though they were, hit on the last format list, I think they still see a lot of play. And Crush Card's going to work great in those Burning Abyss, and that's just going to decimate decks like Monarchs. So it'll be interesting to see how Crush Card works. Again, they brought that new errata to it, so it's basically a completely different card than it used to be. But I think it'll be interesting to see people running 3 Crush Card now. Something that we never would have thought possible back in the day when this was banned. So yeah, that's kind of going over the list. I know it wasn't the most smooth exposition down the list, but that's everything we've looked at. My final thoughts on the list, overall, I like it. I think it's, I think it's expected. A lot of this was expected. They just moved the adjusted list over to most of these. So not an unexpected change on most of these. The biggest things I have, questions of were like Chicken Game going to 0, and where is it? Upstart Goblin going to 1. Those are my biggest issues with the list. I'm not entirely sure why they chose to do those. It's a lot of draw power just out of decks. I guess I understand why, it forces people to play cards they actually need rather than just playing these to speed up their deck, it doesn't hurt the game. If everybody's running 3 Upstarts, what's the problem with it, If everybody was running, a Chicken Game, what's the problem? And there's the same thing with Pot of Greed, Everybody was running a Pot of Greed, what was the big deal with it at 1? But that's a story for another day. I might do a video at some point, maybe discussing some banned cards. And hey, surprise cameo for my dogs barking in the background. I should have known I couldn't get through a 20-minute video without them barking. Yeah. So those are my biggest issues with the list. Upstart Goblin and Chicken Race. I still don't agree with Ptolemaeus being banned, but it was an expected move, so I can't fault Konami on that. I just don't agree with it being banned for any reason anyway. Basically, I'm calling it now, this format, hashtag Cosmonarchs. Cosmonarchs. Start using that hashtag, I get all the royalties for it. That is my official prediction for this format. You're going to see Cosmos running rampant, especially because they came out in Infinite Gold. They're super accessible, super cheap. I definitely don't think I don't think people are going to shy away from Cosmos with that E-Telly hit. I think people are going to keep playing them. They're going to continue to be good, that damn Tin Can of theirs. Tin Can and Farm Girl and Dark Destroyer. I expected one of those to get hit in some fashion, and none of them were hit. So Cosmos, pretty much untouched. Monarchs, completely untouched here. Someone was like, Chicken Race is going to affect their, Chicken Race and Upstart, a little touch to Monarchs, but again, Monarchs not that broken. They still got their Pandeity at 3, Tenacity at 3, all that stuff is still there, so Monarchs pretty much untouched. So that's why you got Cosmonarchs. Those will be your top 2. What was the guy's name? Jeff Jones, I think it was, who made his quote-unquote PK Fire deck, where he mixed some Phantom Knights with Burning Abyss and then a couple of Speedroids. People are calling the PK Fire deck a top-tier deck this format, and that might very well be the case. Looking at his deck list earlier, they didn't touch anything in his deck that I can recall, so PK Fire looks like it remains untouched. Apparently he went like 5-0 at a YCS or something with it, so definitely he went 5-0-1, so definitely be interesting to see if PK Fire comes out. Again, that's meta. I don't do the meta stuff, guys. I prefer playing older stuff, classic decks. I don't like diving into the meta full head on, because then when they hit stuff, you just wasted all your money. All those people that spent $800 on a Necros deck, gone. But PK Fire is up there. Regular Burning Abyss is still going to be a thing, and even when you don't mix it with Phantom Knights, Burning Abyss, the PK Fire, Phantom Knights, Monarchs, and Cosmos, those are going to be probably your top 4 of this format. Outside chances, you might see some people, again, they didn't touch Volcanics, so I could definitely see people trying to, sneak in there with Volcanics again. You always have that one rogue deck, every regional, every YCS, someone comes in there with, some rogue decks. Volcanics, those are usually the rogue deck of choice. Other than that, I think that's about everything, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, comment in the comments, hit me up on Facebook, we can talk about these changes, and yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys. Thanks for watching, good luck, have fun, enjoy your 3 upstarts this weekend, and say bye to them on Monday. Have fun, guys.